Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Evening, everybody, and welcome to Neon Twilight with your host, Solaris BlueRaven. Tonight we're going to be going into the mystical Christianity and the Holy Grail and a little bit of Arthurian legends, too. So it's going to be a very eclectically oriented flow of insight and information that we're going to be kicking into. Welcome to the show, Solaris. You picked this topic, and it's a doozy.
Well, thank you, and thank you. It's always a pleasure to connect with you again. Well, thank you, Barbara, and welcome everybody. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this. We both kind of went through the material a little bit, and the concept of mystic, Christianity is very interesting. You kind of think of Christianity as kind of linear, but when you bring the mystical alchemy forward with this, and I see that there's a lot of almost paganism, symbolism, and also metaphors. We can probably dive into that a little bit, but it's very interesting, this chapter. And of course, I have a very I'm very interested in King Arthur, so, and the Merlin and all that wonderful, the tales of old, so.
Yeah, well, when I looked at the title and I said, mystical Christianity, what the heck is that? And I was surprised. It's not your standard religious Christianity. It's a more mystical form of it, and it comes from a different place. And I was really intrigued by the interpretation that Manly P. Hall put into all of this, in that Christos, or the sun god, did not necessarily mean Jesus. It meant, somebody who had risen to the level of the Christos consciousness. And so then he points out that throughout time, there have been many that have gotten to that level, to that point, that had that Christos energetic, that could do the magic and the mysteries and the and all of the stuff that Jesus eventually did as well. But he was part of a lineage. He was not the only one that ever had that element of consciousness. And I think that's something that so many people, when they get into talking of Christianity, they're talking of from a religious standpoint as opposed to a mystical standpoint. And the mystical, to me, was far more entertaining, actually, than the Bible, which was written by a whole bunch of men.
Right.
And the Bible was creating a religion. Mystical Christianity explains a consciousness, and they're very different. Though Jesus did fit a lot of the criteria over his lifetime, in many places, I think one of the things that fascinated me was that according to disciples and according to many other historical people of the time, Jesus did live beyond the crucifixion. He was not crucified. He did not die. He lived into his later years, and there are many places out there that speak of his being, especially the one that I remember is of him being in India, being called Isa, and actually his grave is there, and you can visit his grave there in India. So, to me it was like, wait a minute, this is not what the Bible talks about, and yet the Bible talks very little about a lot of this, except they talk about him in reference to prophecies that have been made and how he filled prophecies. And it makes one wonder, did they create this person in retrospect to fulfill a prophecy as opposed to speaking about a living, breathing human person?
I agree. It's like they cherry-picked everything. Once again, censorship and editing when it comes down to any type of ancient text, including Bibles. But I do find it interesting, and I agree with you insofar as the Christos, the Christed one, the Anointed one, and I believe that we probably had this discussion before, but the higher self, oversoul, superconscious aspect all correlates to that. So divinity within the cosmic lineage, which is our starseed bloodline, in my opinion. So I look at a different corridor. But I find it to be, that's what I see when I look at this whole thing, and it is a metaphor in a sense, and you kind of wonder if they did it on purpose. They left so much out. Was it on purpose in a sense of just editing and control, or was it just to leave the mystery there and make people do the work?
Well, I think in many ways they whoever was writing the Bible at that particular time when Constantine said, put a Bible together for me, they had to have a story, and in order to have a story, they had to have a main character, and so Jesus became that character. I'm not speaking of my own belief system here. I'm talking about what it appears that this is what happened according to Manly P. Hall, and it is interesting in that they took fables and they took legends and they wove them all together into a one person. But then if you go back and you look throughout history, especially in Greece, there are many that were born teachers who had disciples who were crucified for their beliefs and things like that. It's not that he was the only one. And I think the interesting thing is when it comes to they don't talk much at all about his life until he began teaching, and then he taught for a year and he died, and it just doesn't make sense to me. There's something wrong with it. There's something missing with it. And yes, we're going back 2,000 years, and it's hard to put this all together. But according to the those historians of the day, and Josephus is the main one, he mentioned that there was a Jesus Christ, but he didn't go into much detail, and he didn't go into the crucifixion, and he didn't go into a lot of stuff. And if you do research back into the Egyptians had wonderful histories, the Romans had good histories. If you go back into those histories of 2,000 years ago, you don't find mention of Jesus wandering the hillsides and everything else, and yet, according to those people that wrote the Bible, it was a big deal. So you do wonder, is the Bible a textbook of philosophy as opposed to a person? Is the Bible creating a person to worship? The whole thing was to create a religion. And when you create a religion, you have to have people to worship. So if you look at it purely from a Yeah, if you look at it purely from a political standpoint, it makes sense what they did. And if he and having him reporting that he survived the crucifixion or even the accusations, and went on to live a very good life teaching in India, that is not the kind of material you need to base a religion on. You have to have someone who has sacrificed his life, and if you don't have someone, you create someone.
Right. Exactly.
So
that's where it kind of dovetails into the Arthur, the legend of King Arthur, in a sense of just the mythology behind it to some degree. There's this kind of nebulous aspect to Arthur, the Round Table, but also esoteric symbolism as well. And even with the Christ, I mean, that's esoteric symbolism. It's mystery school teachings to some degree, even though it was rewritten and re-identified in the books of religion and Bibles. And I think it was all about control manipulation for that. And definitely, I think you're right. I think you're very right on a lot of levels when it comes down to why they did what they did. But in my opinion, it's still alchemy, any way you look at it. And the idea behind people having to suffer and go through so much pain and it's just the torture and the persecution, in my opinion, I don't believe we have to go through that at all. I don't find that maybe a self-journey or a shadowing of self when you're going through your own gnosis in the dark, tides of the mind, but not like a physical aspect of going through something like that. That's just me.
Well, no, I agree with you. I think that we do go through a dark night of the soul, all of us, at some point in time in our life. And it isn't always apparent to other people that we're going through that dark night in the soul, that questioning of faith, that questioning of purpose in life, that being, coming to face with ourselves in the mirror and either liking or not liking what we see and making changes, so that we all go through that, and at some point in time in our lives, sometimes many times, depending on the person and the consciousness and all of those things rolled up into one. But it does feel to me as though it's the Bible. I've always said the Bible was allegorical. It was symbolic. It was it was giving us a message, but it was a subtle message. It wasn't in the black and white. It isn't in the story. It's a story, and what the story teaches something. Jesus supposedly taught by parables, and that's what the Bible is. It's another parable.
Exactly. Yeah, and think about how long people have been going through those cycles and belief systems, and you put that energy into the ether, and it does manifest to some degree insofar as something tangible, but not as tangible as people realize when you get into the oversoul aspects of what we're really doing here on this world, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, well, that's a good question, and these days it's a really good question.
Yeah.
But you get to a point where in your development, evolution, transformation, whatever you want to call it, where you do begin to question and you do begin to try to understand things to a deeper level than you have before, and quite often you see the symbols and you understand that they're symbols, and then trying to figure out what they mean is a whole nother trip for you. But I think that everybody gets to a point in time in their life where they step back and they have that dark night of the soul, where they are all alone in the wilderness and they have to make choices for themselves. And the story of Jesus in the desert with the devil, saying, "I'll give you everything. All you have to do is, forsake, God." And I think we all have that moment in time. I can remember a couple of my own where it was kind of like I felt like something bad was going to happen to me, and yet I felt I was protected, and I went back and forth between, do I choose an easy way out, or do I continue on the way I'm going? And obviously I'm here, so I continued on. But it's kind of like we have those times in our lives when we're, even if we're surrounded by tons of people, we are all alone. And everyone has felt that. Everyone has been at a place and time in their life where no matter how many people were around them, they felt all alone. They felt as though nobody got where they were, and they had to handle things by themselves. And it was it's a serious, frightening, and exciting period of time.
Yeah, I agree. I think that going through those cycles and progressions sometimes opens up the self to that awareness of who we really are as multidimensional, higher self-related beings. And also that source, creator source, however you want to define it, is also the overseer to some degree. So even through those dark tides, sometimes I think we try to control, at least I know myself and in the past, and the illusion of I've always had that, trying to get in the way and control and manipulate the outcome, or at least, try to do my best in personal will. And sometimes you just have to let go of that. So I do find that through this crisis, and especially during this timeline, I think that people are going to be forced into going through that as well, or there's an overseeing energetic that's beyond this realm that will assist on that level, and they'll tune in and dial into it consciously and subconsciously. That's just my own take. Probably digress, but
right. No, I agree with you. I think that coming face to face with reality, and not having any control over it other than I accept or I don't accept, it puts you in a very unique, unusual position. And I think that certainly that was a time frame for humanity 2,000 years ago, whatever it was, where it was time for people to make choices and decisions, and they did. Now, if that situation had happened today, it would have been very different because, of course, there are more questions to ask, and there are more, you don't know who's wearing the white hats anymore. Or no, nobody's wearing a white hat. They're all wearing gray hats. So it's kind of like, okay, so we don't know who's right and who's wrong, and therefore we have to step back and we have to make choices and decisions within ourselves. And that's hard when suddenly everything is taken away and all you have to rely upon is yourself. That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah. And it's interesting because after all these years, even with the Christ teachings and the religion, the story is the same. There's no growth. It's the same program over and over again. And I look at things like that, like what happened? It's like a dead end. No offense to anybody. But I'm just saying, it just feels like what stopped. Nobody got it. Nobody got more information, more access, more gnosis. It was just like it just went to one book, however it wants to be defined, and that's it. And then closes the chapter, and that's the way it is, and there's nothing else. And to me, that is a suspect thing right there when I look at it.
Well, when the Bible was written, after they chose all the books, Constantine ordered all of the other material burned so that nobody would have the opportunity to take a look at the other sides of arguments and questions and stuff like that. Now, today, we're finding parchments and things like that escaped the fire, so to speak. But I don't know. I just get the feeling that organized religion, the way it is now, is not going to survive. Now, spiritual aspects are certainly going to continue to grow and expand and stuff like that. But organized religion is so locked into the Talmud or the Bible, or it's locked into that material that was written so very long ago, and it's not current. The Ten Commandments certainly apply to everybody, but there's got to be more. There's got to be a deeper sense of understanding of where the consciousness is going and what is going to guide it, and those things you find within yourself. But the mystical Christianity I found fascinating because it really didn't take you to the creation of Christianity. It didn't really say, okay, so that's all of this goes together and it creates Christianity. It kind of just left you hanging. It's like, this was reference to this and this was reference to that, and this comes from Egypt, this comes from Greece, and so it takes everything away, but doesn't leave you with anything. except obviously the fact that you search within, and it's a journey within, and nobody can give you a handbook. And I think that's what everybody is looking for. Just give me the handbook. Tell me exactly what to do and how to do it, and then I'll get to where I have to be. And the reality is, if you don't find it within yourself, and it's different for everybody. That's what I think is so important for people to hear. It's different for everybody. And you can't do what your neighbor does. You can't. I mean, there's no way I could have lived through what you went through, and you probably wouldn't have had thrills going through what I went through. So, but it got each of us to this point in time with a different set of background materials, but to the same place. And I think that that's what everybody has to hear, that there is not one way in order to get to that place of enlightenment or on your road to enlightenment. I mean, I'm not saying that maybe I'm 30 or 40 watts. I'm definitely not a 60 watter yet. But, as far as brilliance goes, but you do it a little bit at a time, and you take baby steps, and so many people want to take giant steps and arrive. And the reality is, when you arrive, you usually croak and start all over again someplace else. Another world, another dimension.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with you on that one. But it is a frequency. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's like having a car and not having the owner's manual, and getting the owner's manual the day after you sell the car and get a different one.
Yeah, it's kind of
it's the journey. It's the journey. It has to be the journey. It's not arriving. It's how you take that journey. Are you nasty to people? Are you kind to people? Are you good to yourself or bad to yourself? Do you do kind things for the world or whatever? That's what determines your level of awareness and your spirituality. It has nothing to do with classes you take and degrees you get. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with living your life.
Right. I think that part of that is the frequency shift too. When you're just in a different zone, you change the dynamic by vibration. So yeah.
So how would you say to somebody who wants to change their vibration or their frequency? How would you say to them, okay, this has worked for a lot of people. You might want to try this.
Well, we've had these discussions before, but I would say anything that works for them would be from meditation, affirmations, toning, singing, whatever they utilize that tunes them in and dials them into their higher self, oversoul superconscious, and obviously reading the right materials that helps infuse more light into the body so that they're not, when you do start to receive enlightenment, I mean, first of all, we need to let go of anything that's holding us a limitation. Sometimes that's baggage, emotional, mental, physical, whatever it is. We need to drop that and then infuse the body with more light energy, light consciousness, more illumination of spirit, and all that gets cycled into the system, in my opinion. And then we have the cellular, where the cellular regeneration starts to happen, where energy comes through and more gnosis and information and enlightenment, in my opinion. So I think it is a personal journey, but to start, I would do something like that. What I have noticed on the timeline, this is very challenging right now. If you're not in the right place at the right time physically, if you're living in an environmental condition where there's a lot more static in your environment, whether it's work-related, business-related, relationships, or just the physical states themselves, because there is a horrible, I'm saying it, I'm telling you, there's some weird energy going around, cycling around in each state, and that will affect energetically the beings that are there. So pay attention to that. Just my opinion, and my 2 cents is something I've noticed even where I'm at right now. So that will definitely interfere with your peace of mind, and the way you want to project your consciousness.
That's true. I'm finding a lot of people. Good question for you. I have noticed that. Now, I've had ringing in my ears for a very long time, and it's not tinnitus, it's downloads. And they get louder and louder and louder, and then they kind of gentle off for a while, and they get louder and louder and louder. And I'm noticing a lot of people calling me and saying, I'm having ringing in my ears, and it's like that's how a lot of people experience downloads. Are there other ways that they experience the downloads? 'Cause the ringing in the ears for me is a natural, and if ever my head went silent, I'd worry that they ran out of material or something.
Well, I think you're just dialed into other frequencies too, and you're expanded in your consciousness and vibration to a point where you can access that. And I agree, there's a thin line between high frequency downloading and then where I've been, and I do know that they have some ramped up covert streaming going on when it comes down to aerial warfare. So some people might be getting that, but I'm not saying they are. And for the downloads, I would say just setting the intent, maybe doing some remote viewing, or even just programming your mind before you go to sleep at night to ask for a download, a cosmic download, spiritual download, more access to your higher self or source or whatever it is you want. And that's just asking and doing. And I think that people forgot how to do that. Somehow everybody's relying on things. They're just kind of, whether it's a technology, a computer, an iPhone, it's like just do it. Just ask. Ask the universe. Ask spirit. That's what I would say.
Well, I think they're asking for, I have found so many people that, can I study with you? Do I get a certificate? Certificates, the only thing a certificate tells you, and this goes even for a college degree, a master's degree, a PhD, the only thing it says is you had enough money to buy it. It doesn't mean that you are.
Yeah, that's linear. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but
No, I agree.
I know PhDs that can't tie their shoes.
Right. Well, it's a boys' club, girls' club, and you go to Harvard and MIT and all these. No offense to anybody, but my point is that it's a club. It's a club, and it gives you the ability and access to have a great job with a lot of money. But insofar as data codes go and information, it's very limited. But people don't know that because they're in their own little circles. They're in their own little clubs. They don't care. As long as they get their little piece of paper that says they can do something better and make lots and lots of money, they're going to do it. So, but yeah, we're defined not by a piece of paper, but our state of being. I mean, I don't think we're defined by anything. Quite honestly, we're very infinite. If we really look at ourselves, we're just co-creators navigating timelines and consciousness. I mean, I like to use the word nebulous because I think when we take everything down to who we are as star beings and just look at the star body, that's all we are, energy, and how we define ourselves here is a whole different ballpark. That's just what I see.
Yeah, but, well, you're absolutely right, and I agree with you, but how many people are able to step back and realize that they are riding around in an avatar, and that avatar is not really them?
Correct. Oh, I don't think they know. I think a lot of them are slept. I would say even possibly having like synthetic alters almost, or different aspects that aren't even connected to them. Who knows? Maybe a different aspect that's running the show and they're not even involved in that. So I want to say like attachments or some kind of entity. But who knows? But yeah, I think that is going on. And that's why the Grail is so significant when we talk about the Arthur, the Grail. To me, the Holy Grail is illumination. I mean, when you drink from the Holy Grail, it's like the Holy Spirit. It's like filling your body up with what we're discussing, gnosis, connection to source, who you really are as a spiritual consciousness, higher multidimensional being. I mean, I think that is a big deal. And people don't have that. They're just starving for that Grail, and they're not getting it. And, of course, it is a personal journey. It's a spiritual journey. But somewhere along the road, and I'm sure you were the same as I in the sense that something just put us on the path. And whether we were conscious of it or not, we just were guided to certain things. We read about certain things. We went into the areas where we attracted the right people into our orbits, and then we progressed. And I find that that's beautiful and that's magical. I don't know if that happens for everybody.
Well, no, I totally agree. And one of the biggest lessons I have gotten in the last 40 or 50 years, I can remember sitting on my back porch talking to God at 3 o'clock in the morning, just, saying, hi, how are you? And, this is what's going on in my life, and I would like to have things change, and I would like to make this happen or whatever. And, I waited, and, I said, very casually, a burning bush is fine, a shooting star, and, however you want to give me the message, I'll be happy to get it. And I heard a male voice say right out loud, just get out of the way. And it was like, that's it. No thee or thou or whatever, but and in reality, my ego was looking at my life, deciding what I should do, and then I was putting the order in for it to happen because I knew best what was right for my life. and my ego does not know what's right for my spirit's journey. And it was basically get out of the way. The spirit will draw to you what's needful, go with the flow, and things will be fine. Try to manipulate it, try to steer, try to take control of something you have no frame of reference for at all, is stupid, and you'll hit the wall and get a migraine. Now, knowing that, I still get migraines. I still get to places in my life where I want to fine-tune something or change something just a little, and I know when it comes to my pathway that it's get out of the way. Things will come to you, and that's what happens. That's how Nightlight became a network. I did not say I want a network. I didn't say anything. I guess, asked to be worthy, and that was basically it. And over the last year, we have 4 or 5 extra people that are on Nightlight now, and none of them were sought. All of them, including you, asked if you could be a part. And so waiting for people to ask to be a part was the lesson for me, instead of, they'd be good on the show. Why don't I see if they'd like to do a show on? And so I have totally taken my hands off, and I'm always blown away when someone out of the blue says, I'd like to do a show. And, it's like, and 99% of the time it's somebody that I would be hesitant to ask, but was delighted to have. Because I remember years before you approached us, I think Mark approached you, a couple of years earlier, and I remember talking to him and saying, I would love it if Solaris would do a show on Nightlight. That would be so cool. And you know, and then it happened, but in its own time, in its own way. And that's the way it worked.
And it morphed into us, which is great. I love it. I love you being here with me during the show. It's wonderful.
But I think people have to understand that there really is a plan. There really is there's a roadmap. But if we try to take shortcuts, we get in our own way and we prolong the whole thing. So it's a matter of stepping back and watching, getting out of the way, certainly participating when appropriate, but not trying to manipulate. And that's, I always want to make things better. I always want to get my hands in there and jerk things around a little bit, but it doesn't work that way. And
no.
And it's that way not only with a radio show, but with life itself. It's sort of like, I forget what the saying is, but it's something like, don't waste your time worrying about what you don't have. Start celebrating what you do.
And
that's
nice.
if you do that, if you celebrate what you've got, then it brings greater abundance into your life. And sometimes you have nothing, and I've been there. And my mother said to me, you are totally broke, and you're in debt up to your ears, and you're happy. Why? And I said to her, stock market can do anything it wants. It won't touch me at all. I'm fine. I don't have any money, so that nobody can come after me for money. And what I owe, I will pay off as I can when I can, and I have. But I'm not going to lose sleep over it because there's nothing I can do. I have to let the universe take care of it, and the universe took care of it beautifully. Not in any way I would have imagined, but it did. So and I'm not saying sit back and wait for things to happen. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying live your life as best you can, as well as you can, and try not to manipulate situations. Just allow them. That means you get a job and you work. And so many times, people have said to me, somebody just lately who said she had two of her dreams had died, and she really thought, I won't be here next year. I might as well die too. And it was like, well, wait a minute. Just because dreams die doesn't mean you die. It means you have room for more dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And just because you thought those were your dreams, that doesn't necessarily mean what your spirit is dreaming of, or what your spirit is trying to bring into your life. And
True.
because so often our egos get in the way and they mess us up so totally because they think they know what's best for us and they don't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Very true.
my ego
yeah,
gets
I agree.
my ego gets me in more trouble, and it's kind of like I see it coming and I don't dodge it. It's just there.
Course correction.
But well, I think that's part of life. So I think you there's a lesson there. You figured the lesson out, and once you miss one lesson, another one hits you in the face. And I said once that I thought that I would accept no more karmic debt. I wanted it all rolled over to the next lifetime. I would never know what hit me when it came next lifetime because, it would just hit me and I'd deal with it then. But apparently karmic debt is still being dumped here and there. So it's an adventure. But if you look at it that way, it doesn't make it quite so bad. There are struggles, but you and that old saying, God never gives you more than you can deal with. And who was it? It was Mother Teresa who had a saying that was, I know God thinks very highly. I know God thinks very highly of me. I just wish He didn't think so highly of me that He gives me so much to do.
Interesting. Well, it is a strange timeline. I mean, this has been very intense for everybody. So, if everybody's dealing with a little extra, whether it's inertia or just maybe the personality being too intense or whatever, I think it's just part of the course right now. We're in the midst of a lot of transitioning. So that to me I see. I call it the transfiguration to some degree. It is a burning away. Just feels that way to me. I mean, not only physically with forest fires and this and the other, there's just something else transmuting alchemically that's burning and purging and destroying with fire. And to me, that is a huge alchemical process. So, and it doesn't mean we just like go poof. It just means that to me, I see the world like that. Everything is alchemically changing in a harsh way. People are not being very kind to each other. Not everybody, but you see what's going on and what's happening here and there with these different areas with Russia and this, that, and the other. And it just gets intense. The energetic is spiking. Now, even if we ignore it, even if we don't watch the news, the energetic signatures are still spiking up from the behavioral patterns of people that are working in those hives that are creating this havoc. So I look at it as alchemical change, like it's just a wave of alchemy changing the field, and that's pretty much what I'm seeing. So if people are having this strange dream time or whatever it is, I don't know if I told you this, but I've been getting the flight paths all of a sudden decided to come through my area, my house. So I have a flight change where flight paths from airlines are now constantly over my house, okay, which is extremely disturbing to me. And I've contacted FAA, and I've been complaining, and I'm actually debating whether or not I want to move because I don't want this anymore. This is too much. And I'm not talking like 1 or 2 planes an hour. We're talking nonstop. And first of all, you have to ask yourself, what changed? What changed? What happened? I live up in the mountains away from people. So what happened? So I'm just using myself as an example, but it is interesting. That changed my whole environment. I went from peace with birds and nice quiet to noise nonstop with jets. It's insanity.
Yeah, that can definitely get on your nerves for sure.
Well, it does. It gets me kind of I can't explain it. It just kind of fires me up. I can feel the dragon in me. Kind of the scales are kind of moving. It's like I'm disturbed. It's like being in my lair and having people surround you with all these noises, and it's not like they're just like flying like you can see them from your window. They're literally going directly over the house. It's crazy. So I don't want to digress with it, but I just want to give you an example of the weird that's going on and why I look at this like disturbance. Everything's a disturbance. And even if you get away from it and you create your own sanctuary, there's something atmospheric-wise that's trying to disturb and shake it up. So that's why I keep saying alchemical change in process, because it's really weird.
Well,
so if anybody has any
true,
patterns, let me know.
Well, I think everyone is going through a major change, and when you do that, it's like a snake. You're shedding one skin to let another one emerge, and sometimes the tightness of the old skin is so frustrating and restricting that you're almost claustrophobic in your own skin.
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
So that there is, people are more easily upset these days than ever before. People are more inclined to fly off the handle than ever before. People are not as tolerant as once they were. There's a sense of, I don't have time to play this game. And where people, I've noticed a lot of people I know are either buying or selling a house, and people are saying, this is the price. If you want it at this price, fine, but I'm not going to bargain with you. I'm not going to haggle with you. I'm not going to go back and forth. I'm seeing a lot more of that. Usually it was a give and a take and a bargaining thing. Not anymore. That's the price. That's what I want. I'll wait for the next person if you're not it. And
yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
So it's there's that there. There's the fact that there are shortages of strange and wonderful things out there, and every time you try to build up something in your garage, it turns out you're building up the wrong thing. So there's that frustration. There's first of all, they're saying there's going to be a wheat shortage, and then there's going to be another kind of shortage, and it's like, just tell me what to prepare for, and I'll prepare. But giving me all of these mixed signals is driving me nuts.
Yeah, I think that's the whole idea, is to create that confusion and also fear.
Well, I survived the toilet paper shortage.
Yes, you need a T-shirt for that.
I have one. It's 4 cats with masks on them, and it says 2020, the year when shit got real, and instead of zeros on this 20s, it's toilet paper.
Oh, that's cute.
And I've got toilet paper. I can supply the town for a while in my garage, but that's not what they're going to have shortages of this time. And so it's kind of like, and then I have friends who are getting the emergency food stuff, the prepper stuff. It's good for 25 years. I have a bucket of that, which will last me for 52 meals. And it's kind of like, you don't know what it is that is going to be crucial that you're going to run out of. And it's sort of like, get a freezer and stock it up. What if they cut the power? Then you're out of the electricity and you're free. I can think of all sorts of things we can do, but also the alternative of what's gonna happen. My biggest fear is an EMP that takes out the internet.
Well, cancel that to the universe, right?
Yeah.
It's high probability. No, I say that, but it is. It's high probability. That would be one of the ones they would use. But yeah, you think you'd be okay without the internet, or is it just you're connected to it energetically, or your shows basically? Do you think you'd have a hard time? Because you strike me as someone who can adjust.
Yeah, but it's okay. So without the internet, I don't have communication with any of my friends. Without the internet, I don't have a radio show. without the internet, which has been the purpose of my life for the last 13 or 14 years. Without the internet, most of the books that I read on Kindle because that's easier for me. But there wouldn't be a need for me to read a book a week if I wasn't doing a radio show.
Right, so chain reaction there. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I'm the same bucket in the sense of the radio shows, and yeah, I do a lot of work online, no doubt about it.
Well, that's the other thing. All my writing is online.
Yeah.
My website is online. So if you took the internet away from us, well, for me especially, I would feel lost.
Right. Well, you established yourself in that ether, a different kind of ether.
Yeah.
And I did too. I mean, I remember when it first came out, and I never used a computer, and I remember the year it started coming out, and I started it with a very minimal website. Nowadays, I've built everything up, and you have too. And the radio shows, we do everything online. So, yeah, it is a big deal. So hopefully that we won't get to that level. But I find that the strange that's going on right now is unnecessary. We don't need to go through this war zone. We just don't need to do this. And it seems like it's a progression that they're just wanting to push everybody off that cliff. So, preparation is a great idea. I like the water purification, I think people should have that for sure. And the storable food.
Yeah.
So those are things that you can have, and if you lose power, you still have those.
That's true. I think that, and not only that, but, the fuel for the cars, that's so expensive now. It's ridiculous. I don't know. If I had to survive without the internet, I would probably find a church and do a lot of volunteer work. That's probably how I
would put you in the right place.
Yeah. we have churches here in Tennessee. You can't spit and not hit one.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of things coming. I think that we are definitely moving towards some sort of a climax. And I don't know if it's going to happen in November or in January or when it's coming. But there's definitely we're building to a climax, and I don't know when it's coming. But it definitely is out there and sort of waiting for its time, and it'll time it so that it's of the greatest difficulty for all of us.
Yeah, and with your radar, you probably hone in on something, whether it's premonition or just like something foreboding. For me, this past week has been interesting because I don't know if it's the planes or not, but it's something that's gotten me really, really wound up. Not in a panicked way, but in a way of I'm in the midst of a battlefield. I'm in the war zone. I feel like I'm in an area where I'm in the crossfire. So I need to look at
where
that.
Where are you located now, though?
I'm in the Rocky Mountains in the Colorado.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah. And I'm at altitude. I mean not altitude, but I'm at elevation. So, 8,500 feet. And I used to love it up here. I used to love to write up here, and it's always been beautiful, but everything's changing. And the mountains are changing. So it's very interesting.
Well, the mountains
let me know.
Really, well, I would say that the mountains are probably the place where there's a lot of defense stuff.
Yeah.
And you're probably on a flight path for a good reason. Now, as far as transportation and everything goes, I think the tunnels underground are probably another thing that's probably creating a vibration for you. But the reason the flight paths are changing, I think they follow the tunnels.
That's interesting. I never thought about that. Highly possible. I know some of these flights are commercial and some are not. I actually tried to find it when I looked it up, and you try to track the flights, and some of them are unidentified. So that's interesting too. Yeah. So it's kind of like, you just know, man, when you're on the radar, it's like Rudolph. It's just, yeah. I think you're right.
Well, no, I think
you're right.
Energetically, I think what's going on is there is an amazing military buildup that we aren't aware of that's going on underground.
Mhm. And above. Yeah, I agree. I think it correlates to the skies as well. And I've been watching the skies like you wouldn't believe. I mean, just filming, watching, taking pictures. Yeah. It's been interesting. Because you know how portals are, right? You're working energy and consciousness. I know you do this, but you know how the field changes when you're working magic or you're doing your thing energetically. And I've done that up here where I can look and I see the fields changing. I've even talked to you, I think, about how my eyes have actually seen the energy. And now everything feels like it's becoming more weaponized. Like all of a sudden they've taken a vacuum and tried to reconfigure everything in my environment. And I think that's also part of it. But I think you're right. I think it has something to do with the types of technologies and perhaps some of the things they're doing that is connected to military warfare or something other.
I think that while it looks like our government is weak, it's not. And I feel and I can't explain how, but I feel like we will do a first strike against someone, and I don't know who. But we will do a first strike that will that will probably be devastating somewhere. But I know I can't tell you exactly how, when, or where. But I do believe that our military will do a first strike. And
to prevent
I don't.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and see, there's a difference here. I didn't say the government. I said our military.
Correct.
So while we all perceive that our military takes the orders from the government, I don't think that's the case anymore. I think there is a level of our military that does not take orders from our government. And that's what's going to create a first strike. You heard it here, folks.
And you should put it on your page, but I heard it here too. So, I mean, I know they were concerned about Russia, this, that, and the other, but the first strike, I would agree with you. I would have to agree with you on that. And your radar is really good, so, yeah. Well, hold on for the ride. Get your cosmic surfboards out, because I'm feeling something. I'm telling you, I feel like I need to get out of here. I'm feeling like I just want to leave. So.
Yeah, but where would you go?
And I'm not like that. I don't know. That's my point. To me, I'm always looking at living off planet, and that's not a fantasy. That's me being a scientific mystic and looking at how we can do these things, what the possibilities, how can we do this. For me, I just feel like it's a red zone, it's like I just got to get out of here. And I think the planes have really done that to me. But I've had, I think the planes, and I think that's why.
Yeah. Well, I think also HARP is going to have something to do with this as well. So, I'm looking for first strike being almost a natural disaster that is a surprise. So whether it is something like, and I'm saying like because this is just an example, like triggering the New Madrid fault line to go off so that it splits the country in half.
Interesting.
And of course I'm right in the middle of this, so I'll have waterfront property maybe.
I was gonna say you'll be all right. Angels will take care of you.
No, I'm not worried, but
you're good.
I'm more fascinated with watching it happen and watching it evolve. I think also you're going to see major weather disasters. Typhoons, hurricanes, tornadoes. The whole thing is it's going to be overwhelming, and it has nothing. Hear me. It has nothing to do with climate change. And everything to do with manipulation of weather. And what's going to happen is they are going to eventually trigger something that they can't auto-correct.
I agree with you 100%. Yeah. And I don't know if you noticed or not where you live, but the chemtrails, the geoengineering is off the rails over here, if you noticed that at all. How are the skies? Are they blue? Can you see the sky and the sun?
Can see the sky, can see the blue. Actually, I'm right by an airport, but luckily, find wood to knock on, I'm not in a flight path. And
good for you.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened because I am 15 minutes from the airport. Every now and then, though, the Black Hawk helicopters go over.
Hmm.
So and they're military.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people should be paying attention to the skies because the military helicopters are out there. They're all over the place, and it means that we are making ready for something. And the other thing that I can see happening really fast is martial law being declared.
Yeah, I've heard that as well, and I agree with you there too. Yep.
Yeah.
That's not a good sign. I don't care for that because that can get pretty dangerous. Martial law.
Well, the thing is, I see martial law being declared, and then, it's usually declared because of an emergency. But once it's declared, I'm not seeing the military letting go as soon as people think they should. So that could be dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
But if it keeps us safe, that's what counts.
Well, yeah, that word safe comes in a lot, but I don't feel very safe at all. Actually, the more that gets delegated into people having control over us or our destiny, I'm very that's when I get really taking this wheel and driving it my way. So
yeah, but Solaris, both you and I signed up to be here this time.
That's what you say. I think my ship crashed. I don't know about that, but go ahead.
No, I don't think it's an accident. I think that,
it's been an interesting
we
ride.
signed up to be here. I think there are a lot of not that I or you are ascended master, but I think we're wise people, and we've been around a lot, and so that we have an element of security and trust and faith and all sorts of cool things to share with people. But I sit back and I watch, and I'm not. Well, let me put it this way: I'm not nervous and I'm not scared, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to be okay. So if that's the case, then within 15, 20 miles around me should not be ground zero. If it is, I'll complain to someone, but and there is this feeling of it's okay. I'm okay. This is this is something that humanity is going through, and I'm watching it, but I'm not living it. And
that's a big difference. Yeah.
And, it's. I mean, I'm counting pennies like everybody else is, but it feels to me as though I just know things are going to be okay. But I do know that we are only on the fringes of how bad it's going to get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you on that too.
And that doesn't mean that we're going to have the Russians invading on the shores or anything like that. If anybody's going to invade, it's going to be the Chinese. But because seeing how the Russians are doing at invading, I don't think they'd have much luck crossing the ocean too.
No, I see it more like an EMP thing. I do see it as a technological thing, and they have had the cyber hacking and this, that, and the other going on indirectly. But if anything at all, I think it would be technology, something to zap the system. But we have all kinds of satellite systems to counter these things. So
Well, yeah, we do, but I think what's really interesting is I don't think the cyber attacking is going to hit normal people. I think it's going to hit the big corporations.
Yeah,
so that,
of course, I agree.
So that you and I and our piddly little paychecks and stuff like that are going to be just fine. But the large guys, the big guys, we're at a time and place where there are too many powerful corporate entities. And in order for the quote-unquote one world government to come in here and take over, they have to get rid of those big corporate entities.
Yeah, that's true. It's competition.
And a long time ago, it was Bell that had a hold on. It had total control of the telephones, and they were forced by the government to break up into smaller companies because they had a monopoly going. And I do believe that we're going to see something like that happening with a lot of the big corporate entities that are out there today. I'd like to see some of those big corporate entities broken up into smaller ones, but I don't think at the moment our government is strong enough to do that. But it seems to me that we're going to be seeing a lot of the large, powerful corporate people. Now there's talk of the fact that the trilateral, the three most powerful cities in the world are Washington, D.C., the City of London, and the Pope. And that
I agree with that.
These three entities are really, they're countries unto themselves. They are not part of the country wherein they exist. So that's where
D.C.'s a foreign country. Yeah.
Yeah. So those three are going to be vying for taking over a lot of other stuff. Vatican City. Thank you, Mark. So
Hey, Mark.
So it's nice to know he's listening. He gives me clues every now and then when I am searching for a word. He is awesome.
He's so helpful. He's great.
So those three are going to have to be dealt with. And in Nostradamus' prophecies, I believe they talk about the city of the Seven Hills being destroyed. That would be Rome. And
Rome's
then,
overdue, if you ask me, quite honestly. It's way overdue.
Well, it is a little frightening for sure. And so, there is a lot coming that, speaking as somebody who just gets these little flashes now and then, and, I used to put them up on the website. I don't anymore because they're usually so scary. I don't, this website's supposed to be a supportive thing and saying, don't worry, it's going to be okay. And all I get are these things that appear to be frightening but aren't. The New Madrid fault line going off. I mean, I swear to you, I believe it's going to go off again soon.
Well, radar is always really good. I mean, when have you ever been wrong about your predictions? Let's look at it that way. You're pretty accurate, if you ask me. So, you know what I keep seeing, and I cancel the universe, I should say, but the dams are vulnerable.
Yeah.
Big time. So if I were, I don't know why I just do. So I find them to be very vulnerable. Yeah.
Hoover Dam going would be disaster.
Right. Well, there's a couple of them, and there's even one, I don't want to say where it's located, but I just get a vibe, And I get those radar hits, and I was like, I just ignore them, but I'm like, as somebody who has that kind of background, we both have that kind of detective mind, too, where you can kind of look and see and do an analysis, even on a spiritual level, excuse me, but it's also on an analytical level, too. But it's just like, it's like a pattern of lines, and you just see it. You see where the vulnerabilities are, the cracks in the wall, so to speak. I think, something to, at least, when Spirit gives you that information, I would take note of that, not in a fear-based way, but preparation, just be expecting unexpected. Not that it's going to happen or has to happen, but just the idea behind it, that these are possibilities.
Well, yeah, and I think it's not, it doesn't, for me, it doesn't come through as a, alert, it comes through as a knowingness. I know that things are going to be happening. I know that the New Madras line is going to go off again, and I'm probably going to be here when it does. Now, the last time it went off, they said it was the equivalent of a 9 on the Richter scale. It rang bells in Philadelphia. Are you familiar at all with when it went off last time?
I think you might have talked about it a little bit on my show once, but if you want to refresh my memory, that would be awesome.
It was 1838, 1839 in there someplace, and when it went off, the Mississippi ran backwards. It was so devastating. It wiped out. I mean, it in the 1830s, the population wasn't that great along the fault line. It is that great now, and schools that are located along the fault line, from what I've understood, they have survival kits of 3 days food and water for each of the children in the schools now.
Mm-hmm.
So they have the material there just in case. I keep saying it's going to go off again. I mean, there have been times when it felt like it was really going to go, because at one point the Mississippi was it was running dry in areas that it shouldn't have, which would indicate that that there were holes in the Mississippi, and it was going down into the mantle, where the magma is. So that would probably have triggered something. Within the last couple of years, there have been a number of times when the animals started to walk out of Yellowstone, and that's a mega volcano. So knowing how our government and other governments as well have been playing with the weather and frequencies, it's the Haiti tsunami. I swear to you, was HARP. I will bet money, at least up to $5, that it was HARP. So, no higher. But so there's a lot going on that is being masked as nature, which is not nature, but it's HARP, and then they're blaming they're blaming global warming for it, and it has nothing to do with global warming. It has to do with the frequencies that are being emitted by HARP, and I do believe that they had the Havana syndrome with people in it. There were people that were being attacked and having similar experiences at the White House, and I do believe that's HARP oriented.
Yeah, it's aerial warfare without a doubt. I think I might mention this to you, but I got hit with something twice this past year and a half, and it caused vertigo for a week. And it was coming from the east, and it was satellite driven. So that happened to me. So it wasn't energy, it wasn't spirit. I know that. It was definitely something technological. And it is interesting, because I do agree they're terraforming this world in a sense of that's why I watch the skies, because I see them spraying. I see the geoengineering. This is not contrail. This is engineering. They're literally manipulating, controlling weather patterns, and then they're blaming it on global warming. Well, no, that's not the case. They're the cause. They're creating this. They're actually exciting the atmosphere and creating this agenda in a sense of controlling and manipulating weather patterns. And I think it's more about control, like, for other countries, causing droughts, doing this, that, the other. And I think it's going to be out of control at some point. I think you're right. I think they're going to lose control of this. At this point, the skies are white here. We don't see the blue sky very much. I see it for 10 minutes in the morning. I see the sun for a very minimal amount of time, and then it's dim. There's nothing but white skies now. I'm not kidding you. This is my point. I'm like, something's way bad. And this is happening because the past 3 months it's been accentuated. So this is, and I'm not the only one. Other people are telling me in other states are getting it. So if you don't see that, count your blessings, because it's bad here.
Wow.
Yeah. And also, we've been getting those excited fires, too, right? Remember? We just had another in Boulder County. So there's another fire, and they don't know the cause. Yeah. I mean, and people are like, well, what's going on with Boulder? And I'm like, look at the skies, people. I mean, come on. Look at the skies, okay? Stop listening to mainstream news and look at the skies. Watch the skies. See the planes? I mean, oh, gosh, don't get me started. But, I mean, it's like, I'm there with my binoculars checking these things out. It's my atmosphere. It's my perimeter, It's common sense to look up and around your environment. I mean, it's not like I'm trying to be nosy. It's right here,
Well,
and it's there, and I think that's it.
Well, and what gets me is that I know the government asked the farmers to cut back on their wheat production.
That's right. How coincidental.
I mean, we get our wheat from Russia, and it doesn't make sense. We are capable of being self-sufficient, but we have cut ourselves off from being self-sufficient. It doesn't make sense.
No, it's sabotage. It's sabotage, deliberate sabotage, if you ask me. That's the only way you can look at it. No, it's like why are they trying to just, like, I don't want to say suicide themselves, but literally that's what they're trying to do. It doesn't make any sense. Even like the water. I mean, we have infinite amounts of water in aquifers, and that's all getting kind of rearranged, so to speak. So yeah, I think that even I think Biden even mentioned it. Like, expect some issues concerning food supply. So this is not, in my opinion, an accident. I think it's all by design. I really do. But I'm not here to be a guinea pig, and I don't want to play that. I don't. so we'll see where these rolls. Yeah.
Well, I think we sit back and we do our best to spread patience and love and help people to find their center and survive this kind of a process, this kind of warfare. I just, a couple of things that I'm going to be watching carefully over the next 9 months especially. It feels as though the birth rate is going to be going down tremendously, and it feels that divorce is going to be more frequent. I think that there is an irritant that is in the air that is causing people to be less loving, less patient, less everything.
Yep.
So that there is this get out, I don't care, I don't love you. There's going to be a lot of that. So I would say the breakup of marriages or partnerships is going to be increased as well. And again, it has to do with what we've been going through. Normally in New York City, whenever there was a blackout, 9 months later there was a baby boom because there was nothing else to do. But we've been all isolated and confined for 2 years. One would think the birth rate would go up, but I will bet money that it goes down dramatically.
Yeah,
dramatically.
Well, I think that's what they want. I mean, I think they're trying to call that I don't want to say geoengineering, that's the other word, but culling the herd, so to speak. I think they were trying to do that.
They're culling the population, and theoretically that's what the war was about, but the only thing the war is doing is killing Russian soldiers, just about. I mean, they're taking the brunt of it, and they didn't even know they were going to war.
Right, yeah, and that's another thing, I'm looking at both sides of the mainstream news, and I just have to step away from it, because I find that something's not adding up with that either. But we'll figure it out, I'm sure, soon enough. I think that they're, the U.S. is not about to back down, and you're talking about like first strike attacks. I think that before the end of this year, we're going to have some major activity going on, and I mean, the next month, April, to me, feels like a very intense timeline. So we'll see where we go with that.
Well, it's going to be the military or a part of the military that has gone rogue, that is going to do something.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I would say that I mean, it's not people that really want to have a dictatorship. It's people that want to have freedom, and their freedoms are being taken away from them. I mean, even in the military, their freedom is being taken away from them. So, how do you fight for something that you don't have? That's scary.
Yeah, it is. Well, that's conditioning, too. I mean, they break them down and build them up their way, the military, to comply with their programming. And, of course, by the time they realize that they're probably not doing the right thing, it's too late, or they get out of the war and they come back home damaged and psychologically messed up, I mean, there's so much that can happen with that, if you ask me. But yeah, this is a bad cycle. It's just there are other ways to do things, and the whole idea behind controlling and manipulating and not honoring freedom is such a big deal. I just can't understand why people have to snuff out everybody's light, why they can't just coexist and can't just evolve. And it never really registers to me why people are like that. I just don't get it.
Well, it is frightening, and it most people just want to, they want to have their job, they want to have their family, they want to live a good life, but we're at a time where that's just not enough. It's not going to work.
No, we're not living. We're existing. I don't think anybody's really living anymore except the 1% or people who are super wealthy. And even them, they're living a program. They're not really living per se. They just think they are. But that's my point. It's like, yeah, it's just happiness, looking up at the stars. That's what I need, the magic of life, absorbing energy from the cosmos or the trees or nature or animals. All those things they're trying to suffocate, every single bit of it, right down to engineering the weather patterns and then the whole skies. I love the sun. I meditate with the sun, and it's a big deal for me to have them block it like that. I'm not the only one. Obviously other people probably know. But it's like, what's going on here? We could have had a beautiful sunny day, blue skies, and they're just poisoning it. And under the guise of this 2030 agenda, in my opinion, we're definitely controlling the weather patterns. So it's the climate accord for sure. But like I said, it's not global warming. It's them trying to create the atmospheric conditions. They're the cause. And the effect is what we're seeing right now. It's unbelievable that this is going on.
Well, and I've seen two examples of this in the last couple of weeks, and it to me it's people strive to get a lot of money, and in the last 2 weeks I've had two people that I know come into a lot of money, and one would and they've never had a lot of money before, so and we're talking millions here. We're not talking 5,000 or 10,000. We're talking millions. And instead of being happy that they can be out of debt and secure, both of them are struggling and worried about how do they protect their money. And
wow.
I find it fascinating. They've never had that kind of money. They now have the security. They now have it. They are both focused on, I have to protect the money. I have to make sure that I don't lose the money. And it's kind of like, well, let's look at this. You never had the money before. You were fine. If you lose it, you lose it. It's, you didn't earn it.
Isn't that wild? My goodness.
But think about it. If you suddenly got, say $15 or $20 million. Now,
I'd be happy as a clam.
I would be too, and I'd pay off all my debts, and I'd make sure some of my friends paid off their debts, and it would be. But am I going to be worried about not having it? I was happy without it, But so many people, when they get to that place where they suddenly have money that they never had before, the only thing they're worried about is protecting it so nobody takes it away from them. And
yeah.
And happily, I don't have that problem.
No, I don't either. I don't think I'll get it in this timeline. But I'd buy an island or something. I'd have a good old time with that. Start my own space program, sure. That would be on the top of the list. Move over, Musk. Yeah. Well, I think it's great. People get paranoid. They get strange.
They do. And it's kind of like, well, for Pete's sakes, spend it well and enjoy it, and don't worry about tomorrow, because the only thing we're guaranteed is right now. Can't do a thing about the past. The future may never happen, so right now is all you've got. So make it the best you can make it.
Great advice. I agree. Yeah. No, love is important. Moments are precious. Everything is so precious. Yeah. Life is precious. I'm telling you point blank. And I've always been like that. It's not like I just changed as I get older and the illusion of aging. No, I've always been that way. I've always appreciated everything. Love, relationships, happiness, people, the right people. I mean, the people I had a connection to. And my animals, I just, that to me is sacred, Just those moments don't come again. They just don't come again. So,
No.
yeah, it's unfortunate. People aren't thinking, too. We were just talking about this the other day. It's like they have impulses. They're acting under impulse, but not under thinking. So they're not really backing it up and thinking about anything. They're just kind of reacting. I notice more and more acceleration in crime. You were talking about that, too, the anger, the rage, the excitement. It's almost like molecules in a microwave. And maybe that has something to do with the transmissions in the aerial warfare, but there's definitely a change in behavioral patterns of people, I've noticed.
Well, we haven't even touched the fact that there is a secret space program out there. There are several of them out there. And there is a war going on out there in the universe. It's not like it's all peace and lollipops. It's not all, Federation this and Federation that. I mean, there are we easily can be getting some sort of energetic blows or overwhelms from cosmically what's going out so very near to us in space that our people are a part of, and I think because there are humans that are in many of those spaceships and stuff. Their links are back here on Earth, and if they sign up for a 20 and out, they get memories wiped and stuff like that and put back into their place here on the Earth plane. But the reality is, the energetic is out there. There's an energetic of war out there. It's not like it's the most peaceful place in the world, and you can float around and make friends. There's a lot of stuff out there that's going on. So I think we're getting it's raining down upon us, that aspect of it as well.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff in the cosmos, but I'm seeing more is some of the things that are happening when it comes down to the illusion of the solar system, I should say. But a lot of the changing connected to atmospheric conditions, and I call them celestial bodies, but that's also happening. Big changes on frequency, on a universal scale. I mean, you can kind of even omit all the other stuff and just look at the elements of energy and how it's almost redefining each celestial body. And Earth is in the way. Earth is next, or the illusion of Earth, I should say. I would say the illusion of, because there's so many different names, and this world has been terraformed so many times over. But I see that. I mean, I see parallel blue-through realities. I see a lot of things going on as we are starving, and that there's always a war and an attack associated with free will and honoring the free will, which comes from the stars. I mean, it doesn't. People want to say it comes from God. We're co-creators, in my opinion. So we are an extensions of Source, and we have the capabilities. We have that ability that's free will oriented. So we don't have to sit here and ask for permission to be free. That's foolishness. I don't understand that on this world, and I never will. But yeah, I agree with you. There's a lot of blowback coming in right now, and also the karmic patterning connected to all the misuse of technologies and weapon systems and psychological operations and abuse and torture. I mean, we can go down a checklist. Think about all the things that have happened alone here in this world or on this world for centuries that are now probably coming into where they're bubbling up, and it has to be blown out. It has to be cleared or transmuted.
That's true. And you sit back and you take a look at all that, and karmically speaking, I mean, humanity has, in my opinion, screwed up.
Oh yeah.
I know that if we looked at the cycle of the root races and stuff like that, we're in the Aryan root race. That's the most materialistic of them all. That's the most down to earth, with very little spiritual input at all, and that this particular root race will take us towards destruction, and to a time where teachers or wise people from another dimension will come in and take the survivors and educate them to be able to grow and evolve and move into a golden age of some sort. But so we're at the very bottom of the barrel, and I have a good friend who says, well, Jesus is going to come riding in on this white horse and save us all, and I just look at her and it's like, don't think so. First of all, whose side would he be on? And second of all, who would listen to him?
They wouldn't listen. But, there are aspects of that divine energy, too. The whole idea about praying for someone to help you, when you have the ability to do it yourself, kind of like those ruby slippers again, once again, you have the ability. We do have a great ability to do miraculous things. When you talk about, and I talk about intercepts or the idea behind taking a certain percentage of beings off world, I think of the moon as, kind of an intercept or a lifeboat sometimes. Wouldn't it make a great lifeboat, or an ark of some kind? But that's speculation. But, the idea behind, what can we get, what could be the next jump point as close proximity to get out of here? That would be one of them, insofar as just trying to get out.
Well, I think
it'll all work out. I do believe it will. But we are in a strange world right now. We're in a really strange space-time.
Oh, we are. There's absolutely no doubt about it, and we're on a downward slope, and we're picking up momentum. Now, once we get to the bottom, we'll start climbing again, but we have like 17,000 years before the next mass destruction hits us, so we've got a long way to go, and it just seems to me that humanity could change. Humanity could move in different directions. And when you look at, I don't even watch the news anymore. I don't watch any of those programs that have any political anything to them, because they're mostly lies. And the people that are talking, the people that are handing out the information, they don't realize they're lies. They think it's the truth. And because they're not quote unquote reporters anymore, they are more they're anchors. They're anchor people. They're not reporters. They just read the news. They don't report the news. So
it's like propaganda, I like to say, but yeah.
Yeah,
they really they do what they're told. Unfortunately, this is what I mean by complying with a program that's not effective or maybe even defective. People have to start to think. Like, read a book, and then we're doing an analysis with Manly P. Hall. Right or wrong, we're looking at it. These people get information, whether it's news or anything else. Don't they look at their information and say, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right? Don't you proof your data? Or, I don't understand that aspect, and I understand the politics involved. That's why I don't watch it either. I don't pay attention to it. But I do pay attention to the situation awareness of my own antenna, what I pick up on.
Oh yeah, and the reality is that there's so much going. They're intentionally flooding the market with stuff that isn't true, so what is true can't get through. And it's very hard to find the material that has a ring of truth to it. So it's kind of like, how do we do this? How do we just get the truth? How do we find the truth and then report it? So I can play I doubt it with just about everything that's being said on every news broadcast. I mean, they're all speaking out of turn, and like you gotta kill this leader, you've got to take out this leader or take out that leader, or the group, the party doesn't like this person, so that they're going to put him out of the way or get him out of the way. I mean, we're at a place here where people are in very veiled terms, and not thickly veiled either. They're talking about killing people.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're doing it so casually. It's almost as though, don't you realize you're thinking about taking a human life, and a human life that probably has a family and children, and they may be a creep, but they still have children.
Yeah, well, who gave them the right to be God? I mean, the illusion of, right? That's what it boils down to. And I don't want to say the pee match, the pissing match, but it is. I mean, it's like they just want to sit there and prop themselves up. You want to talk about, their feathers out there like roosters. I mean, it's always about the ego with these guys, even the women.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's unfortunate, but they don't have the right to do what they're doing. I mean, they take the authority. A lot of them are public servants. They're literally supposed to be working for us, and they haven't honored that at all. They don't honor a whole lot. So it's very corrupt, unfortunately.
My grandfather was in politics, and we're talking like 100 years ago, and I have a feeling that he would be so outraged by what has happened with politics. If somebody is in politics, I don't care how good they look, I tend to mistrust them, because I know that they have to have backing in order to be in office, and in order to get the backing, they have to give favors, and in giving the favors, they're corrupting their integrity.
I agree. It's a game. It's like that club again. But nobody wants to be part of that club. They seem to think that it's just a bad scene. It's almost like selling your life away at the crossroads, There's something wrong with it. It's somehow, some way, it may seem appealing and glamorous, but somehow, some way, it goes down a very dark spiral.
Yeah, and yet, the money that the people have that belong to those clubs is just outrageous. I mean,
they're not feeling anything. No,
and I'm looking at the Bohemian Club. Now, how that club has survived for this long is definitely a testimony to what money can buy, because nobody's gotten in there, nobody has seen what's going on. They just know the people that go there and their importance and how they are the movers and the groovers type stuff. Same with the Bilderberg Group. Same with any of these large corporate things. They just don't give you a chance. And those of us that are struggling, I mean, I definitely kid around with Jeannie, my friend, that I used to be lower middle class. Now I'm lower class, because there is no more middle class. It's gone.
Right. It's poverty now. You have to be, even upper middle class went to middle class to lower, basically almost poverty. These past 2 years, a great sabotage took place. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Not everybody, but quite a few people, it's no good. So, and these people that are there, the one percenters that are trying to control all this stuff, they're not the first contact. They're not extraterrestrials. I mean, they're just people with a lot of money, and most of the time criminal backgrounds. I mean, it's a big club of mafia-oriented tactics, in my opinion. So you're dealing with that level of corruption, the illusion and delusion of power, which is a very dangerous place to navigate on, because it's not tangible, but they think it is. It's very fragile, actually. But they're nothing. I mean, they're really nothing. I think once they realize people are very intelligent, not everybody, but once they realize the gnosis of people and their capabilities, it becomes a threat. It becomes a threat because they want to be king of the hill for everything. They want to buy the world, own the world. They want to own everything, the moon, you name it. It's greed beyond greed. I mean, you talk about people who are obsessed with power. My goodness.
It is, and it's frightening. And
it's just like not ascended at all. I'll tell you that much.
Well, and you think of people that you would have said were at least teachers here, and Mother Teresa comes to mind. So does Gandhi, and then you go back in history and you pick up Buddha and all of those guys. But the people that have the most wisdom and gnosis and are able to teach are also the poorest.
A lot of times they are, yeah.
And yet we look to the rich to be our leaders. Now that doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. Not at all. I don't look to them. I never thought they were very impressive. Even when I was younger, I never paid attention to that whole scene. Like even the people in Hollywood, how they, people idolize people and the illusion of fame and power. I never idolized anybody. I just treated them the same way I would want to be treated. I didn't think they were anything special, but there's that strange that goes on, and they want to emulate these people, and these people are like, you don't want to emulate them, really. So.
No, I think
has to do with spirit.
Well, what people are emulating is the archetype they're representing, not actually the person who is the focus. So they've achieved a certain amount of recognition, and you relate it to an archetype, and the archetype, in many cases, especially with actors and actresses, it's a role they have played that touched you greatly, not how they're actually living their lives. Because, most of those people they've got weird lives. They really are, they're strange.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Program, no doubt. More than likely handlers and all kinds of strange drama. The weirdest drama you could possibly think of, more than likely. That kind of weird going on.
I would think so. Because, where you have massive money, you have massive abuse, and you have massive corruption. I mean, and yet you got people like Bill Gates and all of those guys that appear to be trying to help humanity, but in reality are not.
No, of course not. It's very strange. Like, he's the one that wanted to dim the skies, and I don't know what he has against the sun, but I'm kind of annoyed with that. So this doesn't work for me. I like the sun. I love the sun. So yeah, it's very weird. But yeah, they get really crazy. I mean, they get kind of dysfunctional. Not that I think they were ever dysfunctional to begin with. I think that it's under the guise. They put a persona on. People believe the persona, just like a good actor. But in the end, it's like they're not good people, and you don't want to be around them. So I think that's what it boils down to. And these politicians are toxic. I mean, I can't be around that. I mean, there was a side of me that would always say, well, I wouldn't want to be in politics, but part of me would like to change some of the things in politics. But I would never be able to do that because I don't like that toxicity. I don't like the behavior and the programming and the deception and the lying to people's faces. I just like, there's no integrity there. Too much corruption.
No.
It's got to go. Terrible.
Well, you're right. It has to go, and it's just, how do you get rid of it? How do you get rid of it when it's so ingrained within? I mean, first of all, you got Supreme Court judges with, not only do they have their job for life, but they also have their paycheck for life if they retire.
See, I don't think that's fair at all.
They make, I think, over $200,000 a year.
Yeah, to do nothing, sit there and whine.
Yeah,
and project their negativity on everybody else. No, I think the whole system's so corrupted and so dysfunctional. It really just needs to go. To be honest with you, I think we've had this discussion before. It doesn't serve us. It doesn't serve themselves. At some point, they're going to realize it's not even healthy for them. It's really just the whole thing. I'm talking globally too. It's a mess. So maybe the Great Reset is really just about eliminating all that on a global scale.
Well,
and if they keep pursuing this war, it might go that way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, sooner or later, somebody is going to drop a nuclear bomb.
Or even worse, but yeah.
Everybody run out and get your iodine tablets.
Yeah, I have a liquid one that's really nice, too. Go ahead.
Many years ago, there was a TV show called Soul Survivor, and it spoke of whenever there's a State of the Union message, everybody has to be there. All of the Congress, all of the Senate, Supreme Court justices, the cabinet, everybody has to be there, and they leave one person out of the cabinet just in case something happens and there's a wipeout of all of that. And in this particular show, there are bombs set and it wipes out everybody. And so the sole survivor has to start put the government back together. And it was a fabulous, fabulous show. It was, I think it was 2 seasons, if not 3. And it was spectacular how he put the government back together, and he did it from he was the low man on the totem pole as far as the cabinet went, and he just put it together more simply, and it really worked. And he did it as an independent, so he was neither party, and it really looked like it was working well. And then, of course, they took it off the air. So,
I didn't see that one.
Oh, it's so worth watching. I'm sure you can get it on YouTube or something. It's Soul Survivor.
Well, they do have the underground bunkers, Okay, I'll look for it. But they have underground bunkers. These guys aren't going to sweat bullets. I mean, if they do have a launch sequence, these guys are protected. It's us. It's people here walking around, unless you have your own underground area. We're the ones that are going to be suffering the consequences, the collateral damage. But, yeah, they're fine. I mean, they're all taken care of.
That's only if they have warning. They didn't have warning.
Sure.
These were just bombs set that were in at the Capitol, and they totally wiped out everybody.
Wow.
It was really a cool show.
Check that out.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Well, I think, but it's like everything's it's at a tipping point right now. So a lot of weird going on. I think anything can happen, quite honestly.
Well, I know that our system doesn't work, and I don't know how to make it work because the corruption goes so deep. So I don't know if it's possible to make the changes that are needful to pull the government, the people, into again a we the people. You know, I mean, it's so divided that people aren't working together anymore. There is no across the aisle. There is no, what's good for the people. They put their bills up and they throw such garbage in them that huge amounts of money go for the stupidest things in the world. And, you do begin to wonder, where are these people coming from? What are they thinking that the country is being invaded by people who are running away from other forms of government, and people are coming in at the southern border from Lithuania, from Ukraine, from everywhere. I mean,
Russia, even Russia. Yeah. No, it's amazing to watch this influx. I don't think this is a safe space for them in a sense of we're very vulnerable on a planetary scale in the illusion of with Earth changes like you were describing. I don't think this is a good place. South America would have been better, to be honest. Costa Rica, or closer to the equator, in my opinion.
No, you're absolutely right. It would have been. But, they don't have the streets paved with gold like we do here.
Or the illusion of that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Where's that gold street? I want to see that.
Yeah, you're not alone. I think it's with, it's with Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, that yellow brick road. But how do you can't turn away people who are running for their lives. So what do you do?
No, but they're going to be, right, I get it. But at the same time, we're getting a lot of criminal activity. And as we probably, I don't know if we touched on this, but the spiking of crime since this whole border thing has been going on, we're getting very dangerous. It's getting very dangerous out there just in the daytime, just for everyone. And that is negligence. That's complete negligence when you're not securing your perimeter like that. So I don't know. It doesn't look very, very good. But the whole idea behind good behavior is really being highly spiritual, in my opinion. Because when you're advanced in consciousness and you're spiritual, you don't behave that way. And this is my point. That's why spirituality is such a big deal, because your gnosis is evolved and ascended enough not to engage in those things. But these people are just operating as entities. There's nobody driving the ship. I mean, it's crazy. And yet they're out there running rogue and making irrational decisions. And yeah, I mean, I just look at it from a parallax view, but it's it's just like, wow, it's no good.
Well, they're murdering, they're stealing, they're being dumped in cities at night, as told, here you are, welcome home, and they have nowhere to go. I mean, I'm sure the majority of them want to work and want to have a good life, but it's hard to have a good life these days because there's, and yes, we have tons and tons and tons of jobs that our own people won't take that these people will. But in essence, isn't that creating a slave class again?
You bet. That's what I kept saying. It's the new plantation. No offense to anybody. It's not about color. It's about enslavement. And yeah, that's what I'm seeing. I think that's one of the reasons they wanted that border open. But I think they're creating a monster out of control. And it's obvious to me. I mean, I monitor a lot of things. I don't get obsessed with it, but I watch the crime spikes. And it's not going to get any better. And then that's nothing compared to the bigger scenery with this whole, potential strike against the U.S. or vice versa. I mean, it's really, really ramped up, really ramped up. It's taking away from our spirit, it's taking away from our essence and the Holy Grail, like we kind of diverted. but the Grail of light, that Grail of truth is being swept away by what they want to do. They want to control a narrative and right down to an outcome for their behavioral patterns. When we're looking at higher consciousness and advanced technologies on a higher level of our divinity, we're not looking in their realm. We don't want to be part of the realm. At least I can speak for myself, but I don't want to engage with these people anymore. I want to go to this field of where everything is smooth. I don't need to do this. Mm-hmm. So I think most people really don't need to do it either. I mean, the animals are also suffering because they're kind of swept along for the ride. And they didn't do anything wrong.
Oh, yeah.
So it's crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be a very unusual time. In a way, it's fascinating to watch. In another way, mm-hmm. it's scary. And you sit back and it's like, okay, so is there anything I can do? Is there anything I can do to make things better? And there's not. So, you hit those people that you touch. You touch people's lives, those people whose lives you touch, and your family and your friends, and you put it out there that way. But you're kind of it's sort of like the little Dutch boy with his finger in the dike. You plug mm-hmm. one hole and then 3 more open up, and you get to the point where you have more than 10 holes, and you're overwhelmed by it because
right.
the powers that be, the people that are trying to, I know they're trying to initiate a one world government, but humanity isn't to a point where they will fold into it. They will mm-hmm. fight it.
Oh, yeah.
The time will come when humanity will think that this is perfect, this is right, and this is a good thing, but nobody's going to think that now. So the one world government people had best go beneath ground again and wait for a better mm-hmm. opportunity, because this is not it.
I agree.
The people, we have too many people who are militia-oriented in this country. They'll fight back. I'm sorry, even
on a
military
global scale,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we are not a people, a species that will fold into a one world anything. One
right.
world language, one world. Oh yeah.
No, go ahead. That's what I'm like. I think I'm all for good order. I like order out of chaos. I really do. But I don't go for enslavement or poverty or abuse, whether it's psychological, physical, mental, whatever they're trying to do. They're not anybody's parents, okay? They're not mama, they're not daddy, they're not God. This has got to stop. Just because you have the money to pull it off doesn't mean you should, right? Isn't that really what it boils down to?
I think that, even if you think you have, all the cards are in your basket, your basket's got a hole in it right now.
That's right.
It won't work now. Dictatorship won't work now. It just won't.
I agree.
So, but the day will come. The day will come when humanity will flow into it and be grateful for it. This is not that day.
I agree.
And
yeah, well, just keep your cosmic surfboard out. Don't get on the Titanic. I think it feels like the Titanic. They're always setting out the signal SOS, SOS, and nobody's listening, and the ship's going down.
Well, on the 14th, I think 14th of this month is the 140th anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yep. I've had visions of that ship before. I know everybody has, because we can dial into it, but I think I told you that story, didn't I, or no? It was wild. Yeah, I was watching. I was a teenager, and there was a show on. They were interviewing a woman who had one of the survivors of the Titanic. This was a long time ago. But I remember I was just listening to her, and all of a sudden the room started to change, and the vibration started to change, and I heard the propulsion of the ship, and I started, phasing into that. And I got very scared, and I ran outside the door and put my head against the door on the outside of outside, because I ran outside, and I had my head on the outside of the door, but we just painted it and I had paint on my hair and everything.
Oh,
And
God.
somebody came up and asked me, "Are you all right?" And it brought me back because I literally went there, and I was like, "I don't want that. I don't want to see that again." So that was when I was young and didn't control a lot of my energy. Psychically, I could dial into people, and just by her voice, I mean, it was just like really interesting. But I remember that. So yeah, I know everybody has this thing with the Titanic. I think it's part of the collective. You know, we always kind of, you know, some people think they were there. I don't care for that at all because I can see too much in that, so I back away from it. At least back in the day I did. Yeah. I was young though. I was only like 13 years old maybe. I was very young.
Well, wait. It was over 100 years ago that it sank.
Well, there was a survivor on there because I remember somebody interviewing a lady who was a survivor of the Titanic. Maybe she was a baby or something.
Well, yeah, there were definitely survivors. Well, yeah,
and you
I
can
know.
video,
I know.
You can find them on video.
Oh yeah. Well, I've got Charlie Pellegrino on the show on the 14th for the anniversary, and he's been down to the ship in the submersible and seen what the ship looks like, you know, now, and he's written like 3 books on the whole thing. It's really quite fascinating. But
very cool.
There's actually a really good new show on. It's on, I believe, the History Channel. It's called I Was There. Long ago, when TV started, they had a show called You Were There. And what they did was they took you with a reporter and put you into things in history that had happened. And, you know, you were kind of talking to the people that were there present. Like one of the ones I remember was the Assassination of Lincoln. And this new show called I Was There goes, what I like about it is they investigate major events, but they bring up new material that you know, that hadn't been out there, so that they're giving you new material about ancient things that have happened, or things in history, and that they have new information on them, like when the Titanic hit the iceberg and they came to a full stop, the captain then had them go ahead half speed, which made the sinking happen faster. So there were a lot of other, you know, things that came out in the show. So the show is very interesting. It's well researched, and
yeah, it sounds neat.
Yeah, they had the Hindenburg on. They had they had Amityville Horror. They did.
That's another one that used to creep me out as a kid. The Hindenburg area.
Yeah, that was quite phenomenal. But they give you more information on what happened, which is really kind of exciting and educational. But I keep thinking back to because I remember when there were no TVs, and then I remember the first TV that came in. The box was big, but the screen was not much bigger than a tablet. You know, it was that small. And usually the test pattern was there, unless, of course, it was 6 o'clock or 11 o'clock news, or there was a show on. So, yes, I'm that old.
There would be a sign-off of the national anthem, too, and all that, right?
Yes. You know, they didn't start broadcasting 24/7 until the 80s.
Isn't that interesting? Wow.
Yeah.
Now it's crazy. Now everything's digital craziness. You know, Robert Ballard, he was the one I met him in person. I don't know if you've ever interviewed him or not. This was a long time ago, but he was one of the first, I think, to discover the Titanic, if I'm not mistaken, insofar as sending a little submersible down there.
Oh wow!
He's still around. No,
he might. Well, it's just it's another time. It's a moment out of time when you see the stuff laying on the sea floor and you see the artifacts that they brought up. Phenomenal.
Right.
And but one other thing that was interesting, 4 of the wealthiest men in the United States were on that, and they died.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of mystery around that, shall we say? The ship itself and possible sabotage oriented. And, you know, I don't believe in accidents, the illusion of accidents. I think everything has there's a pattern to a lot of things, especially with that. I find it an interesting event, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the fact that they didn't have enough lifeboats and that the compartments had doors that sealed, but the overheads weren't sealed, so the water could just go over the top of the door. So it was definitely an elegant. I've read the book, and I've seen I've read a couple of books, and I've seen, of course, the sinking of the Titanic, which of course is classic. And you know, it's again something that you just can't believe something like that happens in this world. And I'm sure we'll have more events like that will touch all of us deeply. But you know, as we get older, yeah, unbelievable.
I hear your chimes in the background, by the way.
Yes, that's telling me
it's
that
so pretty.
It's close to time.
Oh, it's so pretty. I thought it was like your wind chimes.
No, that's my clock.
Oh, I love it. That's beautiful.
It plays classical music every hour on the hour.
Nice.
And I wake up to Rites of Spring, which is kind of cool. It just happens that way.
It's very peaceful.
It's very peaceful. But we're down to like 3 minutes, so you want to give people your shows and where you can be gotten and stuff like that there?
Oh, certainly. And thank you again. This has been a wonderful episode. I'm glad you're here, and we had a great brainstorm there. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, you can listen to my other radio show, Hyperspace, on KCUR at 12 midnight Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Pacific on Friday nights. And then, of course, Raven starts Witching Hour, and that's on Saturday nights, 12 midnight Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Pacific. And always a pleasure to connect with you, Barbara. I know we started off with the book. We always kind of go to a different universe, but that's okay. It was fantastic.
I guess we have a jumping off place. That's about it.
Well, we're looking at it like, okay, where do we want to go from here? I do love the Grail, and I love King Arthur. I think we pulled the sword from the stone.
Oh, yeah. That was my favorite Disney cartoon. I could almost lip sync it. But I digress. I thank you so much for your time and your energy, and you know, we will look forward to another show the last Sunday of the month in April. Spring will be sprung by then for sure. And you know, I thank everybody for watching and listening mostly on Neon Twilight. Having Solaris here on Nightlight is you know, one of my high spots for the month. I thoroughly enjoy being able to share information with her, and you are always a font of wisdom and information and good humor too. So I thank you for being here.
Likewise, so are you. An honor. It's an honor. Really is.
And we will be back at you next month, and unless of course something spontaneously wonderful happens, and we throw a show up, but we'll let you know. Just keep watching the website, and if you follow on YouTube, they'll let you know when a show is happening as well. So for now, thank you very much, everybody, for watching. This is Neon Twilight signing off.